Hi, I'm John Dougherty, author and poet and stuff like that. Among other things, I wrote There's a Pig Up My Nose, which was illustrated by the fantastic Laura Hughes. Here she is. And those nice people at Egmont have asked me to do a little video about it for you. So here we go. So, what gave me the idea to write There's a Pig Up My Nose? Well, excuse me, I've just got a bit... No, that wasn't it. What it actually was years ago, I used to be a teacher. And I was teaching a Year 3 class. This class. In Hillbrook Primary School in Tooting. And there was one of the little girls. Her name was Dougherty. And she had a very snorty laugh. She used to laugh like this. And I used to tease her and I used to say, Dougherty, have you got a pig up your nose? Every time she did a snorty laugh like that. And she would always go, yep. So when I was trying to think of an idea for a story, I had this idea of writing a story about a girl who had a pig up her nose. And in fact, some of the children in the story, some of the children in Mrs. Daffodil's class, they're actually named after children in my class, children in the class that inspired the story in the first place. So the people at Egmont who publish There's a Pig Up My Nose have asked me to tell you about some of my favourite bits of the book. Now I actually have to say some of my very, very favourite bits are Laura's pictures, because Laura is a tremendous illustrator and she's just done some marvellous pictures. And one of my very favourite bits, actually, I think it was one of my favourite bits to write. It's also one of my favourite pictures. It's when Natalie is holding up the note asking her to be excused from games. Because when I was a teacher, well, every teacher gets notes from parents saying, can you excuse my child from PE because they haven't got their PE kit today, or because they've got a cold, or because they've got a sore leg. And the idea of somebody being excused from games because they had a pig up their nose really made me laugh. Another of Laura's pictures, which I absolutely love, is this one, where Natalie's asleep in bed. And I wondered, how is she going to show the pig going inside Natalie's nose? Because I wasn't quite sure whether the nose would get bigger or the pig would get smaller or what happened. And Laura did it a very, very clever way. Instead of showing either of those things, she showed just after the pig had gone up Natalie's nose, and she showed it with a trail of trotter marks leading across the floor and across Natalie's bedding and right up to her nose. Laura's very clever. I love this picture too. It's just on the inside of the front cover. It's the very first page after you open the book. And Laura's made the pig look so sweet and friendly. And when I show this when I'm doing a reading in schools, it always gets a laugh. And what's really clever is it actually appears somewhere else in the book as well, but you have to look for it very carefully. Can you find it here? One of the nice things about working on a book is that you get to work with an editor. An editor is someone whose job is to help you make the story even better. And I had a lovely editor on There's a Pig Up My Nose. Her name is Emma. And she asked me to change a few things in the story. One of them was this page. Originally, I had Kylie and Kim wanting to hit Natalie on the head with a hammer, because I thought that was a funny idea. And Emma pointed out that it might not be funny if somebody actually really did it. Now, I know nobody watching this would be so silly as to hit anybody else with a hammer. It's really dangerous and should never do it. And I thought, well, probably the people reading the book will be clever enough to know not to do that. But Emma said, what if somebody isn't? What if somebody does actually decide that would be a funny thing to do after they've read the book? That would be a bad idea. Maybe you should change it to something else. Maybe it should be something ridiculous. So I thought, what is the silliest thing I can think of that you could hit somebody with and it wouldn't really hurt too much? And then I thought, what about a large inflatable rhinoceros? I don't even know where you'd get one of those. So that's what we decided to do. Another bit I absolutely love is, again, a bit that's really got more to do with my editor and with Laura than me. Because when I wrote the story, I decided that it would make sense if we got the pig out of Natalie's nose in the end by having her sneeze it out. And I wrote in the story about Natalie doing a big sneeze and sneezing into her handkerchief, and when she took the handkerchief away from her nose, there was the pig. And Emma, my editor, said, why don't we leave out the words in that bit and just let Laura tell that bit of the story with a picture? And I said, okay. And I thought, I wonder what kind of picture Laura's going to come up with. Well, she came up with this. And I think it's just fantastic. It's one of my favorite pictures ever in any book, anywhere. The expressions on the children's faces, and on Mrs. Daffodil's face, but most of all, the expression on the pig's face as he flies through the air. I was reading the story to a class of children once, and one of them looked up and said, it's like a rainbow of snot. I'm very proud of the whole story. And actually another bit that I love is a bit that almost wasn't in the story. It was the very last minute I suddenly thought of it. In a way, it's not properly part of the story. It's what we call an end paper. But right at the end, where all the other children turn up at school with something stuck up their noses as well. It was just something that, as I was talking to Emma, my editor, I had a bit of a thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny if the story ended like this? And she agreed, and Laura did the picture, and we love it. So there's a pig up my nose. One more thing I'd like to tell you about. Don't know if you can see this little symbol here. Let's zoom in on it so you can. This is the Oscars Book Prize symbol, because this book won a very special prize called Oscars Book Prize. Laura and I were very proud to win. But it was also quite funny, because do you know who gave us the prize? An actual princess. And of course, when the princess announced the winner, she had to say the name of the book. So Laura and I are responsible for probably the only time in the history of the world that an actual princess has ever said, there's a pig up my nose.